Ashe is one of my favorite Warframes, and also the one that actually looks like a ninja in a video game about ninjas in space. Ever since the changes to Bladestorm, I've been wanting to talk about him, so today is the day. What happens when you mix Smokescreen, Bladestorm and the Arcane Trickery? Well, if you're interested, stick around. I'm Deuce and thanks in advance for watching. Ashe is one of the most popular frames in the game. His combination of speed, slick abilities and dashing looks makes for a pretty neat package. All of his kills revolve around the concept of an actual ninja. He uses shurikens, throws smoke bombs and has that assassin vibe all over. The build I will be presenting to you is all about synergy and trying to overcome Ashe's main problem. That is the fact that he has the worst invisibility mechanic in the game simply because its duration is just horrible, making it hard to mod around it without severely affecting his other abilities, especially Bladestorm and the damage it can output. But first, let's take a look at the main ingredients. Since this build only uses 2 out of Ashe's 4 abilities, and for the sake of time, I'm only going to discuss those 2 abilities. First up, Smokescreen, Ashe's second ability and his invisibility mechanic. He simply throws a smoke bomb that staggers enemies in a certain area determined by power range, becoming invisible for a short period of time, determined by power duration. This is a pretty straightforward invisibility mechanic. You can't refresh it, you can cast it in midair, while wall latching and even when sliding. The casting animation is short and so is its duration, which in turn is also its main problem. The distinct feature here is the stagger effect produced when using the ability, which is a double-edged sword, since it can prevent enemies in close proximity from hitting you by breaking their attack animations, but if you're in the middle of a stealth run, it'll also alert them. The range is not much, but still it's there, so in some scenarios not only the when will matter, also the where. This ability also synergizes with Bladestorm and we'll be seeing how in a moment. Moving on, we have Bladestorm, Ashe's 4th ability. This one has 2 stages. When you first use it, the Warframe will enter a focus mode. You can tell because all sort of edgy effects will splash on your screen. During this stage, Ashe can mark enemies up to 3 times per target. The range in which you can mark them will be determined by power range, and the amount of energy consumed per mark will be determined by power efficiency. To tag an enemy, you simply hover the aiming reticle over them. If you want to do it more than once, then just stick that reticle to the target a while longer or just pass it over it as many times as you want to tag. The tagging takes no time and you can tell which enemies are tagged and how many of these they have by the indications above them. Here is where the synergy with Smokescreen comes in, because if Ashe is invisible, the energy cost per mark will be halved regardless of efficiency, making the ability a lot cheaper. After the tagging stage, if you press the ability button again, having at least tagged 1 enemy, Ashe will produce 2 shadow clones which will go on a rampage, attacking every enemy that has a mark and inflicting damage determined by several factors. The most relevant for this build are power strength, the aura mod steel charge and combo counter multipliers. On top, each hit will have a 100% chance to proc the bleed status effect, which deals 43.75% of the ability's initial damage per tick for a total of 10 ticks over 9 seconds, thanks to this Warframe's passive, which increases bleed DOT's damage and duration. These effects also scale with the aforementioned mods and multipliers. Ashe can also join in on the rampage if you use Teleport, his 3rd ability, on one of the marked targets as the storm is being executed. The main advantage of this is the fact that the Warframe becomes invulnerable for the duration of the storm, and this comes with no added energy cost. Also, there are several ways you can increase the clone's speed, but my choice for this one is to use Prime Fury on a melee weapon, since the clone's movement speed is affected by some melee speed mods with the exception of Berserker. Bladestorm hits will contribute to the melee combo multiplier counter, while melee combo duration mods such as Drifting Contact and Gladiator Rush will extend its duration. Overall, and since the changes to this ability, it has become something of a powerhouse. The fact that you can cause mandatory bleed procs on just about anything, and that you can now move freely while your clones are the ones doing all the work, make for a very convenient combination of damage and mobility, making Ashe the ideal Warframe for those who prefer the hit and run playstyle. Not to mention it makes you look like a real badass. Lastly, let's talk about the Arcane Trickery, which can be obtained by either killing or hunting the idol on Hydralist. A maxed set of this enhancement grants a 10% chance to become invisible for 20 seconds upon executing a standing melee finisher. Now this little thing and Ashe were a match made in heaven, since the Warframe's Bladestorm attacks count as standing finishers, thus giving you the ability to trigger the Arcane's effect. Add to that a second set of Arcane Trickery and you have a 19% chance to become invisible due to the fact that these sets stack. Not in the usual manner, but still they kinda do. On top of everything, since the Arcane's effect is not a Warframe ability, it will not be affected by nullifier bubbles, disruptions and things of the sort, which will make you remember the old days of the Naramon Shadow Step like nothing else in the game. But this doesn't mean that this Arcane is without its shortcomings. Now, what I'm about to say are only my appreciations of how trickery actually works. These are entirely empirical, so feel free to confirm or debunk my remarks in the comments. First off, one thing I've noticed is that the Arcane is only triggered through Bladestorm when one of the clone's hits actually kills an enemy. The wording indicates that the finishers alone should be enough, but never have I experienced the Arcane's invisibility buff when not killing an enemy with the Storm. Another thing I've noticed is that entering the Bladestorm with your Ashe also prevents the Arcane from triggering. But again, these are my personal impressions, so feel free to add to this in the comments and take them with a mountain of salt. Let's get to the build. The concept here is simple. Give Ashe an actual working invisibility while also buffing Bladestorm's damage. This is achievable by focusing on power strength and efficiency, in order to make spamming Bladestorm as cheap as possible. The viability of using Ashe as an invisible attacker stems not only from the two Arcane sets, but also from increasing power duration a bit. This will give us around 15 seconds of Smokescreen invisibility, which acts as an insurance or as an extension for the invisibility itself when Trickery is not on or it's about to run out. Having almost maximum efficiency will make each mark cost about 2 energy, and you may wonder why 170 and not 175. Well, the thing is that adding that extra 5% will make you lose 10% duration, which in turn hurts Smokescreen. So in my opinion, the benefits do not outweigh the downside in this particular case. As for the range, I'm comfortable as it is, since a 40-meter tagging distance is more than enough in my book. Regardless of the polarizations you're seeing, this build only costs 1 forma for Ashe Prime and probably 2 or 3 for the regular version. Still, you may want to tinker with it, since you can do all sorts of things. Run with no range but max duration, add more power strength. The thing is that combining Bladestorm, Smokescreen and Arcane Trickery gives Ashe a remarkable synergy that grants him a much needed defensive mechanic while making his abilities cheaper, enabling you to spam them all over while dealing substantial amounts of damage. More than anything, this is really fun to use. I've had such a great time using it that I can honestly tell you this setup is not only viable but also really enjoyable. Having a 40-second or more invisible Ashe that can actually use his Bladestorm well beyond sortie levels is something I never expected could be done, but yet, thanks to this concept, it is a possibility. It's cheap, well, at least the energy cost is, it's good and it's fun. What more can you ask? Yes, the farming or buying of the Arcane Trickery sets may be quite the grind or the expense, but I believe it's worth either, since I haven't had this much fun in a while. So I hope you give this one a try, you won't regret it. For my part, this has been all for now. If you enjoyed the video or you found it interesting, please consider giving it a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more Warframe content and follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with everything. Again, thank you very much for watching. Whatever you are, have an amazing day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.